What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. Hope everyone is enjoying their Friday, getting ready for the weekend. Today, we're going to talk about draft winners and losers. And at the end, I'm going to be giving shout-outs to people who commented on our last video, so stay tuned for that. But, yeah, NFL draft is in the book. So, who on the Broncos roster came out smiling? And who was like, ooh, all of a sudden my job doesn't have the greatest security around it. I'm feeling some pressure underneath me. Let's remind ourselves of all the draft picks Peyton made. We'll just kind of flash these names on the screen because I don't know about you guys, I just love looking at the draft picks. It just doesn't get old to me. All right. Day 3 guys, Montrell Washington, Luke Wittenberger, and then Faian Hicks and Matt Henningsen. So, yeah, just push it across, Jeremy. So, yeah, those are the 9 picks that George Paton made. We won't dive into those players today. But we are going to talk about the Broncos winners and losers. So, my first winner from the draft on the roster, Billy Turner. I mean, Paton has so much confidence in him that he didn't draft any tackles. And Paton, said, and let's look at the depth chart here because I think it's important to get the full scope. But you didn't see much change, did you? And I know I wanted some change. Just because when you go and get Russell Wilson, don't you want to just get all the bells and whistles possible? Like, if you're going to spend $100,000 on a car, why don't you get a couple features? What's an extra K or two? That's kind of what I thought about. If you're going to get Russell Wilson, why don't you pimp out the O-line? And I know there's some other spots of need, so I understand you can't fill everything in the draft, and we'll look at why in just a second. But I would have liked to have seen maybe some more competition at the right tackle position. I just want to appreciate everyone that's watching today's show. We'll get back to the winners and losers in just a second. But if you're watching this in the early days of May, yeah, decent shot you're an all-time diehard fan because you're sticking with the team in the dog days of the offseason. So if you're new to the channel and you want a place to get recaps when the season's actually going on, this is the place to do it. So subscribe today, hit that big red button. My next winner is Josey Jewell, and we'll actually just toss in both linebackers. Alex Singleton. I don't know if it's going to be Singleton or Griffith that's the other starting inside linebacker. It's going to be a nice competition in training camp, in my opinion. I'll give the edge to Singleton, but I could easily be persuaded to Griffith. I think it's like 55-45. Here's the depth chart, though. And again, this was another weak-ish spot on the roster. Would have been fun if we got Nakobe Dean or Chad Muma. But ultimately, it's Nick Bonitto who Peyton ends up going with at number 64. And there's just a lot of confidence you got to imagine behind Jewell and Singleton. Or it's Jewell and Jonas Griffith as your inside linebacker duo when you don't really draft much competition at that spot of need. Off the wall question early on in the show. What year did you become a fan? How long have you been a part of Broncos country? Are you from life? Or you're like, hey, moved around a little bit, moved to Denver back in like 2000 whatever, and I've been a fan ever since. It's the pinned comment. So drop the year you started becoming a fan down below. My next winner is Sam Martin. Didn't we all want Matt Araiza? That would have been fun. But Martin, he escapes it. I'm sorry, dude. You weren't all that awesome last year. And this is the punt god we're talking about, who got drafted by the Buffalo Bills in round 6. Hand up if you remember doing mock drafts with me. And I started doing them back in like January. And I got this name in the show. It's like a round 7 guy. And then it became round 6. And then it became, he may not be on the board in round 5. Well, then he falls to the Bills in round 6. Sam Martin dodged a bullet because this guy would have been awesome. He's going to be awesome for the Bills, but I wish he was in Denver. And then my final winner is just the entire rest of the offensive line. Like, this was an offensive line that I think ranked between the 16 to 20 range of the NFL last season. It wasn't as bad as maybe we think it would have been. There's some blame that can be spread. It's going to be like, well, that was a lot of it Teddy Bridgewater's fault, and it won't be the same after having Russell Wilson. Well, Russ loves to extend plays, so I don't really see the logic behind that. Ultimately, the day 3 board just didn't go George Paton's way. He said it afterwards in this press conference of the tackles we were looking at, they weren't there when we were on the clock in day 3. So you had to pivot to best player available, and that's fine by me. I'm not going to criticize that. You go get good football players, and you figure out the rest later. And I don't think this offensive line will be atrocious if Billy Turner or Tom Compton or Calvin Anderson has to start at right tackle. I just want to make sure the best possible option is starting. And if an option was to bring in more competition in the draft, I'm all for it. But if you're like, yeah, we could draft a tackle, but that guy's going to suck, then yeah, I understand why you wouldn't do that. So we're talking about the O-line, and I've asked this question before, but maybe we got some new viewers who joined the show during the draft that haven't seen it. So what's your confidence level in the Broncos offensive line? Scale it 1 to 100, 1 being you have no confidence, 100 being you would trust their life and you would never be touched by the best edge rushers in the NFL if you were the quarterback for the Broncos with this front five. Next up, we're going to check out the biggest draft losers, because in life, there are winners and there are losers. So we're going to see who did not come out of the draft feeling very confident about where they stand in the pecking order of Peyton and Hackett's eyes. But there's an awesome deal going on right now over at Fanatics. It's getting hot out. So if you want to wear this awesome Broncos t-shirt that's on sale, check us out, chatsports.com/Broncos shirt. Here's a good way of knowing that's a good shirt. Producer Jeremy, not a Broncos fan, his eyes just popped up a little bit. And he's like, would I get this shirt? I don't know. I'm not even a Broncos fan, but it looks kind of cool. That kind of faded blue, a faded logo on the blue shirt. So 25% off when you go to chatsports.com/Broncos shirt. I got the link in the comments in the description just in case you didn't write all that down so you don't forget, Stepbrother style. But yeah, check them out over there. On to losers. Bradley Chubb. I'm going to get some heat for this. I'm not trying to rag on the guy, but I'm just calling it how it is. When the team drafts an edge rusher, an outside linebacker with their first selection, and you're on the last year of your contract, ooh, that's not very good in my opinion if you're Bradley Chubb. You know what I mean? If they envisioned you like, hey, even if you don't have the bestest season, we want to give you that second contract, don't you think they would have gone a different position other than edge rusher, other than outside linebacker with Benito? Because you know Randy Gregory is going to be here for at least 2 seasons. But Chubb, on the other hand, maybe this is his last year, and they're drafting Benito to learn a little bit for a year and then take over from Chubb in 2023. So do you think Chubb ends up getting a second contract with Denver? It's a good question in my opinion. Y for yes or N for no if he ends up getting I don't know if it would be a 3-year, 4-year contract. Really, ball's in his court. If the guy looks like he did in 2018, yeah, he's going to get a 3-year, maybe even a 4-year deal in my opinion. Next loser is Al-O. We're talking about players who had positions drafted right beneath them to kind of light a fire underneath them. And so after you traded Noah Fant away, you're like, all right, Al-O's our starting tight end. We've got confidence. He's been in the wings for a little bit out of Missouri. This is going to be good. This is going to work out. And then at pick 80, it's Greg Dulcich, the tight end from UCLA. And now you've got a legitimate training camp battle. Because if you think Dulcich is just going to accept being the tight end 2 role, or if you think Hackett, who has no attachment to any of these players, is going to go into training camp and go, hey, you're just going to be tight end 2. No. If Dulcich impresses in the month of August, he'll take that starting role. No doubt about it. I don't think he's going to get it by week 1, but what about by week 18? By the end of the season, who is the starting tight end for the Broncos? Do you think Dulcich could overtake Albert? If you do, put the initials for GD, or if you think it's going to be the incumbent, or the new incumbent, I guess, who holds on to the starting position for the entire season, put AO. Let me know what you think down below. My next loser for the Broncos, McTelvin Agim, right, the 3rd-round pick 2 years ago, yep, out of Arkansas, and hasn't really looked all that pretty. The career so far has been, you haven't seen a single start for Agim. He's had some competition above him, granted, you know, Harris, Purcell, Jones last season, but still, you're waiting to see him break through, and you draft EU out of Iowa State, and that doesn't really bode well for Agim to be your starting Shelby Harris replacement at that defensive end, that 5 technique position. My next loser is Ronald Darby. Signed a 3-year contract, but there's an easy out after 2 seasons, and Damari Mathis may be the reason why there is an easy out. Another DB, Caden Stearns. I thought he'd start this year. You know, I thought it's going to be Simmons and Stearns. And K-Jack comes back. And you're like, all right, well, K-Jack, all right, you get him on a vet minimum deal. It's not guaranteed he's going to be starting. It still could be Caden Stearns. And Jackson just kind of rotates in a little bit. But then they added more secondary depth. Turner Yell, the safety out of Oklahoma. And now you're like, damn, I'm Caden Stearns. Like, you bring back Kareem Jackson, and you draft a safety again. Is there not much confidence in me to be a starting safety duo with Justin Simmons? I got to envision he's kind of feeling that way a little bit. So here are my 5 winners and my 5 losers one last time. Billy Turner and the offensive line come out ahead. No competition really brought in from the draft, along with Julian Singleton. Martin dodges a huge punting bullet, and then Chubb with the Bonito pick. Al-O with the Dulcich pick. Agim, Darby, and Stearns, also losers on my list. Last up on today's show, we're going to get some shout-outs now. This is what I love so much about my job, is that I don't just, put a video out and then never interact with the audience or feel the temperature of the audience, you know what I mean? I love seeing what you guys have to say, and we're going to get some shout-outs to people who on our last video commented before I started filming today, so there was a bit of a buzzer to beat, where they are from. So you guys answered the bell. Here we go. Super Luigi is in Gilcrest, Colorado. Shadow out in Charlotte. Good Tex-Mex there. Dave in Kansas City, Colorado. Aaron's out in L.A. Crossover for Life is in Richmond. Elan's in Lakewood. Kells in Hayward, California. Orange Glasses in Santa Rosa. A lot of Cali boys here. Mario's in Fullerton. Good baseball team. Brett's in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Xavier, longtime watcher. He didn't want to say where, just California. James across the pond in London. Bryce is in Idaho Falls. I had In-N-Out Burger there one time. D'Angelo's in American Samoa. Shout out to you, buddy. Joel's in Chicago. What's up, 847? Seon Prince Vegeta is in Casper. Vegeta, I stayed in the Come On In Suites in Casper a handful of times. Good Texas Roadhouse right next to it. Michael's in Tucson. Johanta's in Columbia. Excellent barbecue one time passing through. John Santasteven, hope I pronounced that right. Long-time watcher and subscriber. Appreciate you, my guy. Dylan's in Hawaii. Gotta be beautiful there right now, or just year-round. Richard's in Billings. Dion, also a long-time commenter, is in Carthage, Missouri. Poria, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. In Toronto, north of the border. Bill's in Denver. Will's in Topeka. Ease did it? I think I got that. Yeah, Brighton. John's in Shreveport, just down the road from us here in Chat Sports in Dallas, Texas. Juwan Powell's in Williamsburg. Shout out to the Little League World Series. Bronco Stampede's in Amarillo. Isn't that where that big steak is? The steak challenge? Yeah. Dr. Al Sutherland, no relation to Kiefer Sutherland, is in Atlanta. Love me some Taco Mac. We've got Jay in Fort Smith. FL Golf Diver in Pensacola. Let's go Blue Wahoos. Dollar D's in D.C. I. James is in California. Andres is in L.A. as well. Frank's in Highland, California. Rod is in a town I'd never heard of. Truth or Consequence. That's a real thing. New Mexico. Richard's in Denver. Slap Yourself. Rapid City, South Dakota. DeAndre right here in Dallas, Texas. We got Andre. Yeah, let's get a drink, DeAndre. Andre Ramirez, Denver. Jacob Youngblood, another longtime watcher. Albuquerque, New Mexico. John's in Irmo, South Carolina. Donovan's in Iowa. Paul's in Clearmont, Florida. Michael Wilson, appreciate you for always watching, up in Idaho. Anthony's in Charlotte, North Carolina. We got some North Carolina folks. Some Carolinas in general. Merlo's in L.A. Elway is in Grand Rapids. 616, baby. D-Rags, Baltimore. And we get home stretch right now. The Only J, Rochester. I know some friends that went to Rochester University. Tone is in Kansas City, behind enemy lines. E-Man 5 EJ's in Austin, Texas. I like Loro. Dionso Kiarners, I think I got that wrong. I'm sorry. In Texas. James is in Greeley. Is it smelling there today? I hope not. Dennis is in Sacramento. Rod is in Ecuador. Lawrence is in Denver. Paul Henry is in California. Mile High's in Ontario, Canada. I lost a lot of money at a casino in Windsor. If you know, you know. We've got Carolyn across the pond in Scotland. Ilray Tito's in Fort Morgan. James Edwards in Sacramento. Another Grand Rapids with Lauren. Nate's in Des Moines. Shout out Drake University. JK's in Santa Fe. We got Frank over in Texas. Big state, don't know where. Pepperstone for Pepperstone. I hope I got that right. I'm sorry. American Canyon, California. J.D. Branson, Alaska. How cool is that? Dawson is in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And the final 4 names, Izzy's in Montana. Shout out to Yellowstone. Awesome show. Aiden's in Grand Island. I think I drove through that one time. Stayed a night in North Platte, Nebraska. Garrett's in Costa Rica, and Brenton is in the Philippines hanging out in Manila, maybe. I don't know. Appreciate everyone that watched today's show. Enjoy your weekend. Follow me on Twitter at Matthew Petey, and I'll see you later with more Broncos news and rumors.